welcome on in. I am back in the saddle again, my friends. It is your boy KV coming at you from my Soul Renegade Sound Studios here in Minneapolis. I am welcoming you to another episode of the Ken Valdez Approach. My guest this week, I'll just put it this way. If I started talking about everything this man has done in his nearly 40-year career, it would take up this entire show. I am not kidding. He's considered to be one of the truly great singers of our time, or any time, if you ask me. He started when he was just 18 years old, singing for the guitar virtuoso Yngwie Malmsteen. And ever since then, this guy has been on an absolute rocket ride. His career is not even slowing down. He's gone on to front the likes of Journey. A little side note for you. The best Journey show I have ever seen, it was with Jeff fronting that band. No joke. He has an amazing supergroup called the Sons of Apollo. He works with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. This guy has lent his voice to the movie Rockstar. And then there's so much more. That's not even the tip of the iceberg. Like I said, I can go on forever about this guy's career. Another cool thing about him, he digs Prince, man. He is definitely a soul brother, man. I love this guy. He is a friend, and he is named Jeff Scott Soto. He has a brand new record out called Complicated, and we'll be talking a little bit about that and so much more. So without further ado, here it is, my conversation with the one and only Jeff Scott Soto. Hey, I'm with Jeff Scott Soto. What's up, man?
How you doing, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there, brother. How about yourself?
Yeah, you know what? Just got back from Atlanta. Just at the Prague Power Festival that was postponed since 2020. So it was, it's the same question I'm being asked everywhere, and of course, every single artist on stage is saying the same thing. It's so good to be back. It's good to see people again. Blah blah blah. You know, it's going to turn into a cliche, stereotype, typical response and answer, but it really truly does feel good again. It feels normal again.
Ah, that's awesome to hear, man. I'm looking forward to finally getting out and playing, my first show in I don't know how long. So,
dude, it's so surreal because it's as long as it took us to get used to wearing masks and locking down and not seeing people, it's taking just as much time, the same amount of time getting back to what we remembered. I've spent 56 years of my life not having to worry about this kind of stuff, or I'd rather say 54 because the last 2 years don't count.
Right.
You're basically retraining yourself on how to coexist. And you get to that point where you feel guilty, you feel weird going out unprotected. You're going into a supermarket and going, oh my God, I forgot my mask. Oh, wait a minute, I don't need it anymore. It's really strange. It took forever to remember the mask, and now it takes forever to forget you don't need it anymore.
They always say, that longing, makes the heart grow fonder, right?
Sure.
And being back on stage and seeing all those people, man, how did that feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the first exclamations I made. It's, I didn't want to sugarcoat it because I wanted to show people how much it really meant to me. I didn't say, I miss you guys. I said, I fucking miss you guys, because you emphasize with the F word, it truly, it steps on the actual meaning of what you're feeling at that point. If you're just saying, I really miss you guys, it could sound like it's just jiving them and just saying, I miss you guys, I couldn't care about you. But when you say, I fucking miss you and I fucking miss this, they realize how serious it is that it feels good to be back.
God, and yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
to experience
you're gonna love
again.
it. It's gonna be that initial exhilaration. It's just gonna hit you out of nowhere. You're gonna go, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this again. It's so strange, it's so surreal. Almost feels like going back to school or the garage band, where it all started for all of us. that I can't believe I'm playing in front of people.
Right. Is it like riding a bike to you? Did it feel that way?
Yeah. The only thing that wasn't, I had the greatest, I found a lot of positives in the lockdown. And one of them was that I get to truly have vocal rest. I've been going pretty much since the early 2000s, or actually the late 90s, when I was in that band, the Boogie Nights. Because with Boogie Nights, I was playing 4 nights a week for 5 years in a row. I had 2 weeks off a year. So
Oh,
imagine
man.
you're basically playing the entire, it's like being on tour for 5 years. And so
Right.
after that, I was, I stepped out of that to start stepping back into original music and touring and making records again. So it was a nonstop process since 1996. When you think about it, that's a long move. There's a long movement before somebody said, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't doing nothing. And of course, I did a lot of stuff from home, but not being able to go out and do it live, it truly, I lost my sea legs, so to speak. You kind of, you learn as you go how to ration your energy and your stamina, moving around too much or moving around a lot and then having to get to the mic and deliver. So that's the one part I kind of lost my muscle memory on. I'm running around the stage. I'm so excited to get to the mic.
And you do have that very charismatic, just front man, kind of thing going on. I've seen you. I've watched you, and you are absolutely a showman. You are a front man in every
Well, thank
aspect
you,
of the
brother.
word.
Yeah, it means a lot because it's sorry to cut you off, but I just
No
wanted to
worries.
tap on what you're saying as you're saying it. It's one of the because we were talking before we started, before we're recording here, we're talking about Prince, and we're talking, between Prince and Freddie Mercury and David Lee Roth, those are the guys that gave me they were the ones that showed me that's what I want to do, but I want to do it like they do. I want to be in control. I want to be in command. I want to entertain, but I also want to make sure that I'm giving everything that's expected of me. So as a singer, as a frontman, as a performer, all those factors are so important to me that I have to make sure every single person I'm singing in front of, whether they like me or not, whether they know me or not, they're walking away going, that he's on to something.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you
Yeah.
hold the crowd in the palm of your hand. You have that ability to do so, and I can honestly tell you that's that's a skill that's few and far between. And obviously, it seems like you took from the best, man.
It's and thank you for the compliment. It's a huge compliment for me because I take a lot of pride on what I do on the stage in terms of trying to entertain and trying. I mean, I'm entertaining myself too. Let's not be fooled. I'm not just there for you guys. I'm doing this for me too. And then it even goes towards my band. Sometimes there's so many inside jokes, and you're in a band. There's certain things that happen on stage or on the side of stage that are basically between you and the guys in the band or the girls in the band, and only you guys know why you're laughing so much about it or entertained by it so much by it. And that is a part of it. That's the factor that comes with everything from entertaining them to entertaining myself to entertaining the guys and girls that I'm working with. So it's a massive circle of I want to impress you, I want to impress me, I want to impress us.
Yes, yes. Tell me about off the stage, Jeff. What are you doing when you're not, when you're not out and about and rocking out and, being the front man?
It's really hard to say I'm doing anything more than just music because I'm constantly in between something or starting something or as I'm finishing something else is coming up. And it does fall into the same category of somebody like Prince, for instance. The guy's life was music. His everything, the blood that flowed through his body, and the bones inside of his body were all laced in music. And that's the same with me. Some of it is because of work in terms of sessions and being hired for a job, things that got to get done. And there are a lot of things that are labors of love. But the bottom line is the music is always in me and it's always flowing, that it's never ending. It never stops. There's always something going on that I have to work on or that I'm working on or finishing. And it's a great problem to have because I love this so much. Again, this is not work for me. This is like air for me. This is like water is for a fish. Music is it's a set of lungs that I can't live without. And so that being said, there's not much more I'm doing when I'm not on stage or I'm not making a record because I'm preparing for the next outing.
Unbelievable, man. I mean, do you have any interests or hobbies outside of music that that you like
Yeah,
to
I mean,
get into?
I love basketball. I mean, the Lakers have been my team since the '80s. Since the Magic Johnson era. That's when I
Showtime, baby.
started getting
Absolutely.
Yeah, I played basketball up till I was a mid-teens when I had a shoulder injury, a rotator cuff injury, and I always had music in me but I also had a love and a passion for basketball that if the music didn't work, which was never that was never a factor. Music had to work, but my backup job or my backup plan was hopefully to be a pro basketball player. Because once as a musician, that's one of the things that when I'm asked all the time, what kind of advice would you give a young musician? And the only thing I can tell them is that if you really want it, you stay with it. If you quit, if you find something else to replace it, if something else replaces it, it was never meant to be. That means you never really wanted it. If you really want it, no matter how long it takes and no matter what you got to go through, you're going to get there, but you got to stick with it. And that's the thing. There was no plan B for me. After the shoulder injury, I didn't want to start learning a new trade. I didn't want to pick up something. There was no real interest for anything else besides music. And even now, as I'm getting older and realizing, my legs aren't going to last that much longer and my voice is probably not going to last that much longer, but I'm also on the other side of the fence, whether it's writing, producing, and even managing at this point. So it's always going to be music because that's my life and that's all I know.
You started really, if you want to call it professionally, at what, 18? Is 18, that right? Yeah. Unbelievable. Obviously it was with Yngwie, right?
Right.
And you have the two, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to put it out there, the two definitive Yngwie records have you singing on it. That's just...
I love, thank you for that. It's a great compliment once again. And I have to throw in, just for good measure, I love the two that came, or the three actually that came after. I love Trilogy. I love what Joe Lynn Turner did with him, and then the album that I think was Fire and Ice that he did with Joran Edman. Everybody calls him Goran, but the pronunciation's Joran. And right. To me, those were the best 5 Yngwie records, and that's just my opinion. I don't want letters. I don't want people saying, "Oh, what about this?" No, this is my opinion. You have yours.
Exactly, and this is definitely mine. And I'll be honest. I'm with you on Odyssey. I'm totally with you on the Joe Lynn Turner record.
It did prove that Yngwie could write a good song. That's one of the things he gets a lot of heat for in terms of his songs are written for guitar. His songs are written for what he does. And there's so many people saying, well, he needs to concentrate on songwriting, things that identify with a lot of people, with the masses. And that album proved that he could write a good commercial song with a hook that still allowed him to do what he does. And he did a few after that as well. I think Trilogy had a lot of that, and I think Fire and Ice had a lot of that. And then he started going, I just want to do heavy, and then I just want to do everything that's surrounding the guitar. And
right.
Good for him. It's working for him. It's worked for him. That's what he wants. Then more power to him. But at least he did prove to the world that he could write an actual song. I mean, Heaven Tonight, You Don't Remember, I'll Never Forget. Those are killer songs.
Oh man, absolutely. I'm with you. But again, without you, obviously, without you, I don't know if we'd actually hear Heaven Tonight. Maybe we would. But, here you are, you're 18 years old, and you're playing with this phenom, right? And I guess I'm curious about that starting block for you, and like where you started from, how it got to Yngwie, and then where it progressed from there.
Well, yeah, I got the bug very early on as a young kid, and it truly came from Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. That's where it really all started for me. For starters, let me just preface it by, I hated rock until maybe 14 or 15. I did not identify with it. While all my friends were listening to Kiss and Ted Nugent and Cheap Trick, I couldn't stand this stuff. To me, it sounded like noise. It sounded like talentless garble, because I grew up with things like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Motown, Sam Cooke, Jackie Wilson, the Jackson 5. And now the Jackson 5 I related to mostly because I was a kid when they were just breaking. And as a kid, I saw Michael Jackson as a role model, saying, if he can do it, I can do it. And that was one of the things that really jump-started me to want to sing, because I always had the natural talent to sing. I had a natural ear, and I had a very long lineage of musical people in my family. Not too many, only a few of them actually pursued it, but none actually made it so far or even close to some of the things that I've been able to pull off. But they were all musically inclined, especially on my father's side. There was always music at our house. there was, we'd have family block parties, and there was always dancing and singing and music and people tapping on pots and pans and making, percussive sounds and singing. It really was a celebratory household I grew up in terms of the music. Anyways, all through high school, junior high school and high school, I was in bands with my brother, cover bands, just doing covers and kind of learning my craft. I didn't necessarily start off as a singer. I started off as a trumpet player who could sing background and play keyboards as well. The very first band I was in with my brother, I was 12 years old. The first gig we had was at my middle school, and the singer that we had was in high school, but we rehearsed for like weeks for this our first gig, and the singer wasn't there. I was like, "Where is he? Where's Randy?" And so yeah, he didn't show up, and we're ready to play. The bell rings, and he's not there. What are we gonna do? We can't just play instrumentally. Boom. Fingers pointed at Jeff. You're the closest to singer we got. You sang the songs at the rehearsal when he wasn't there. You're the singer. So I automatically, by default, became the lead singer of the band for that gig. And they were so impressed, and even my brother was so impressed, they had a little band meeting afterwards. They fired the other guy, and I was the singer. I was the permanent singer at that point.
Awesome.
So that's kind of, yeah. Talk about throw me out into the waters with the sharks. Swimming around. So yeah, that was my first outing, and I'm sure it was horrendous. I'm sure if I had tape of it now, I'd make sure it was burned that nobody could hear it. But we got through it, and that's where the next bug came, that I wanted to be a frontman. I didn't want to be a background singer or a musician where I'm just kind of holding an instrument and keeping the fort down. I wanted to be the frontman.
But you also play.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
I play by ear, and I learned later in school. I learned trumpet in school, and that's how I learned how to read music. But that's once I started making sense of the notes, once I started knowing how to read music and knowing time signatures and read treble and bass clef, everything started becoming even more exciting, because now I could actually read a guitar tab or a piano, a sheet music, and actually learn the real chords of the songs I was listening to. When you learn songs for the first time, you're pretty much just you're learning the songs in major or minor. You're not knowing that there's sixes and susses and nines and 11s and 13s involved.
Right.
You learn all that stuff as you go, and obviously music school helped me learn the dominants and major sevenths, all those things that come along the way as you're learning music. But I did have the head start of having the ear training. I mean, I learned later that I had perfect pitch. You tell me to give you an A, and I'll say, "Dum." I'll give you an A. It's very helpful when a guitar player needs to tune his guitar and doesn't have a tuner. It's like, I can give you an A, I can give you an E just on command. And that's.
I wish that you could see my head exploding right now. I'm not even joking. Like, if you could just see, like, my head is in my hands, and I'm just like, you have perfect pitch. Of course you have perfect pitch. Unbelievable, man.
But this is what helped me learn how to find the notes and the chords when I was learning how to play the songs on keyboards. And then as I started learning theory and all that stuff in school, and started making friends with guitar players in jazz band, because in marching band and school band you only have horns and wind strings and horns and drums. But once they started an actual jazz band in school, hey, there's a guitar player. Ooh, I want to learn how to play guitar chords. And, ooh, I want to learn how to play bass. So that's where all the additional stuff started. All my training happened those formative years of playing the trumpet in junior high school, and then into high school learning how to play guitar and bass. And I was so intrigued by music. I was the biggest sponge of wanting to learn everything and absorb everything I could.
How did the gig with Yngwie come up then? Because I mean, you were 18.
I kind of swayed. Yeah,
no, dude, no. That was amazing. I was along for the ride, and the ride was good. Yeah.
My first true original band was in a band called Canaan, and I was 15 when I joined them. And I remember I found their ad in one of the local music trades. I was looking for a band. There was a band looking for a singer. I would basically call up all the ads that sounded like I would be a good fit. So I called this one. These guys lived in Agora Hills, California, which is strange because that's where I live now. I literally live off Canaan Road, the name of the road that they named the band after when I lived, 40 minutes away, and well before I was even driving. So I joined this band Canaan, and they had original songs, and It was the first time I got to really write with other people and just complete strangers that were my band at that point. Unfortunately, the band broke up just after I graduated high school, and that was in '83. And with no band, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I going to do next? I already hit that midlife crisis at the age of 17.
That's so insane.
My best friend, he lived in Fort Collins, Colorado. He went back to live out there, and we were just talking. I said, yeah, Kanan broke up. Oh, what a bummer. You know, he loved the demo tape that we made. And he said, dude, there's a great cover band out here that needs a singer, and they're getting a lot of work, or they're missing a lot of work. If they had a singer, you'd be rolling in the bucks. And they play everything from Kiss, Judas Priest, all the stuff that I already knew by then. And I said, cool, I'm going to come out and visit you and check them out. I ended up staying in Colorado. And while I was living out there, the first few months were great. First 6-7 months were great. And then the gigs started drying up. Like, oh boy. And inner turmoil, changing members. I had nowhere to stay. I was sleeping on couches to the point where I couldn't even afford even to buy food. Me and my buddy were stealing food from 7-Eleven. I don't condone stealing, but we had to survive. I just remember putting Hostess pies in his hoodie and, basically running out there so we have something to eat for the night. And so it was that bad. But anyways, I realized I can't keep doing this. I got to go back home. I called my mom, said I'm going to hop on a Greyhound and I'm going to get back home. And I remember Mark Goodman. I'm sure you remember Mark Goodman from MTV, the VJ.
Absolutely, yep.
The MTV News comes on. He says, Swedish guitar sensation Yngwie Malmsteen has left the band Alcatraz, and he's recording a new solo album, and apparently he's looking for a lead singer, and it could be you. He pointed at the screen. Nobody else was in the room. I'm like, that motherfucker's pointing at me.
Nice, man.
But
nice.
Of course, my confidence was nowhere near the level of thinking anybody would even look at me, much less listen to me. The guys came back downstairs, hey, Jeff, we brought you a pop. I'm like, oh my God, dude, Yngwie Malmsteen's not in Alcatraz. And really? Because I was a big Alcatraz and Steeler fan. I used to play Yngwie's. I made a cassette once of just Yngwie solos, just to blow people's minds. Like, listen to this guy. And people would tell me, oh no, that's sped up. There's no way anybody could play that fast. There's no way. I go, no. That guy, he's amazing. And I was just selling Yngwie, and there's so many people before he was even known. So I was excited about knowing that, I heard this news for the first time. The first thing those guys said, you got to send your tape. I said, you're crazy. I was 16 when I sang on that Kanan demo. There's no way. You got to send it. If you don't do it, it's going to be the same result. Nothing's going to happen. But if you do it, you never know what could happen. Exactly.
Right.
So a little coaxing, they finally talked me into it. And again, I was so broke, I couldn't even afford the $1.33 that it cost to buy the envelope and send the tape to California. It was that bad, yeah.
So you went to 7-Eleven and you ripped it off, right?
No. Luckily, my buddy's house that we were over, the guy that we were hanging out with, he said, dude, we're going to the post office tomorrow. We're sending your demo. And then so we took some Polaroids because I didn't have any. We don't have press kits when you're just a kid. This is a completely different time.
Right.
Before social media and all these smartphones, you have no way of getting anything out to people.
Right.
So yeah, we sent the tape, and I remember calling my mom saying, "Hey, I'm coming home next week, but in the meantime, I just sent the tape to this audition. If you hear from anybody for a guy named Yngwie Malmsteen, who? Yngwie Malmsteen." She goes, "We what?" Back then that was the whole thing. Nobody could say his name, and I had to phonetically spell it to her. So I said, if anybody calls, please get a phone number. Do not say he's not here, and I missed the opportunity of an audition.
Right.
So nothing happened. Got on my bus, went back to L.A. Not even 6 days later, I remember it was a Saturday. There was a call, and it was the office of Yngwie Malmsteen saying they got my tape and Yngwie wanted to meet me. And I'd like to say the rest is history, but there's a whole nother long story that goes with that.
Oh my! Well, I'm fascinated, dude. You got to understand. There's probably some of your diehards that totally know the story and everything. This is interesting to me because I look at not just the beginning of your career, right? I'm not, and the fact that those records are very, oh man, they're landmarks for heavy metal.
Yeah,
they are. That's what they are.
Right.
But I also look at you, and your entire body of work, which it's massive, dude. It's massive. And I'm curious about this because you had to start somewhere, right? And this was your starting point. You're 18 years old and you're singing with Yngwie. And then, man, all these years later, 40 years later, you're still doing this and you're better than ever. And
Thank you, man.
It kind of blows my mind to see this transformation, this journey that you have been on musically, to hear your influences, to see the progression and how things have worked out. And God, it's insane. It's insane.
You know what? It blows my mind too. And it's a testament to a lot of hard work and a lot of tenacity and not giving up. But the main thing is, I started this conversation with exactly that. I don't know anything else. This is the only thing I can do. This is the only thing I want to do, and the only thing I'm going to do. So there was no in my path. There was no taking no for an answer. As they always say, one door closes, another one opens. As far as I was concerned, there was never going to be a closed door. Even if something's shut in front of me, there's always going to be 5 open doors that I'm going to be able to walk through, because that was my commitment to what I was doing. How I even got into rock music is crazy in itself, because I only listened to R&B. I only listened to soul and Motown and Temptations and Bee Gees and Air Supply and even Doobie Brothers. That's like the heaviest that would have been in my arsenal. But then a band called Toto came around. It was
man.
When the first time I heard Bobby Kimball singing, I thought, hang on a second. This is a black dude singing with hard rock guitars under him, until I finally saw a video. I'm like, hey, that's a white dude. Get out of here. So to know that there was a way that you can inject soul and R&B and funk and all those different sides of the fence into hard rock music, that's when it all started. I've told Luke this story many a time. The only reason I went to the California World Music Festival back in 1979 was because Toto was playing. I went there to see Toto. It was a 2-night event. I'll never forget this. I'll never live it down as long as I live. Aerosmith and Van Halen played the second night, and I intentionally went the first night to see Chip Trick and Ted Nugent, because my buddy, he was a huge Nugent fan and he loved Cheap Trick. If I had to switch it now, I would have absolutely gone to the Van Halen Aerosmith night, because those two bands became such a massive force in my DNA eventually. But back then I couldn't stand them. To me, this Aerosmith looked like a bunch of drugged out hippies. It just sounded awful to me. I don't know why it didn't appeal to me, because the same songs I listen to now, I sing at the top of my lungs, and I love this band to death. And the same with Van Halen. David Lee Roth got a lot of flack through the years of not being a great singer, but that dude was the ultimate showman. He was the ultimate frontman. And he didn't need to be a Lou Gramm or a Bobby Kimball or a Steve Perry, because he had something else that those guys never had and never would have. And that's, if I was influenced earlier, I probably would have had even more of an arsenal in my back pocket by the time I got the Yngwie gig.
God, and that's again just crazy. I love that you are a musical sponge. That's exactly the way that I've viewed you for all of these years, man. I remember being a kid. A kid, and God, I must have been, let me think about this. God, the first Yngwie record came out in 84, 85?
84, yeah.
84.
Uh-huh.
So seriously, man, I would have been 7 years old when I first heard Yngwie.
Oh my God.
I first heard you, right? And at 7, dude, is when I heard that voice, and it's like, yeah, this is cool. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole of rock and roll really at that point. A few years later, I remember turning on the radio. I was all of 13 years old, and I remember Eyes being on the radio, calling all girls, and doing the thing like that. Man, I remember Eyes, man. And then just it's just like you have that voice, man. You have that voice that it's like an old friend,
Man.
and it always kind of comes around, and it's like, oh yeah, there's
You're
Jeff.
firing on all cylinders today with all the compliments, man.
Hey man, I'm just being honest, brother. I'm just being
How many
honest.
times I can say thank you, but man, it means a lot. See, this is the kind of stuff that means more to me than any of the rewards that come with being a musician or a rock star, so to speak. To be able to hear that I touched somebody's soul, or that I influenced somebody, or that one of my songs means something to somebody, that means way more than a big royalty check, or buying a new boat, or big house on the hill. All that stuff is so secondary compared to what passing or paying it forward, doing what you do, and people actually jumping on it and going, this is the reason why I'm doing this, or this song got me through this time. All those little things is why I do this. Those are the things that keep me going. Those are the things that make me go, man, I can't walk away from this. I love this too much, because I love getting that kind of accolade to the point where it makes me want to just do more.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you one more. It's like, no, don't stop. But no, no, I'll give you one more. And this is me as a singer, as a vocalist, right? You have a baritone. Yeah. You're a baritone voice. Yeah. That has tremendous range. Don't get me wrong. You have insane range.
I was a tenor. Once I was a tenor.
I as was I when I was much younger, and without smoking cigarettes and drinking too much, probably I'd still be a tenor. But man, the thing is
right.
you have that big voice, man, and you got that baritone voice. And as a singer, I looked at you, because a lot of the people that I love to listen to were all tenors, right? But then there's you, man, right. And it's like, this guy makes sense. This guy makes sense on so many levels, because you have these influences that I relate to. I relate to
right.
Sam Cooke. I relate to Jackie Wilson. I relate to Steve Perry. Yeah. I relate to Bobby Kimball. And then there's this guy who not only relates to it as well, but he has that voice like I do, that big baritone,
right?
And you hear those influences. So thank you so much for serving as an influence vocally, and just showing me that, like, baritone guys can do it too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. We're talking about voices and genres and styles, and I one of my biggest things growing up, even just when I was a kid or a teenager in the band Kanan or any other band that I was in, the biggest I'm going to say downfall for me was I didn't feel I had a vocal identity. I didn't have a vocal stamp. I didn't have somebody that, when you listen to Perry, when you listen to Freddie, when you listen to even David Roth, you only need one line or even just a couple words, and you know who that is singing. And I always thought, I don't have that vocal identity. I don't know what it's going to take to get it. But even joining Yngwie, I was just a few years into loving rock and roll and heavy metal and all that stuff. And I didn't have enough influence to have my own style, my own sound. So that first Yngwie album, and even Marching Out, I'll even go back to that. All I was doing there is trying my best to sound like Bruce Dickinson and Ronnie James Dio, because I figured those are the two kings of what's going on in metal right now. If I can sound like them, or even try to sound like them, I'm going to fool people into thinking I'm a badass metal singer. Man, when I listen back now, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I wasn't forcing to try to sound like those guys and just sang. But then it might have been a little too weak and wimpy, because my voice was coming from the other world of Earth, Wind and Fire and Michael Jackson, and another world that didn't exist. It didn't even belong in the same area code. So for me, it was more or less impersonating other singers for me to finally find something that worked within the context of that music. And then eventually I started marrying the original style, the original R&B and the kind of soul kind of thing into the hard rock thing. And then all of a sudden my sound was born.
I've got to take a short break from my conversation with Jeff Scott Soto to tell you a little bit about Quilter Amplifiers from Quilter Labs and the mind, the madness, the wizardry that is Mr. Pat Quilter. Guitar players, bass players, steel players, these guys have something for you. And let me tell you, they sound incredible. These amplifiers that they're making are small, powerful. They pack a punch. They're portable. They're light. It's not the size that matters, people. It's not. So they say, but these guys prove it. The tone that they get is unbelievable. And it's not going to break your back. It's not going to break your bank account. And they sound great. I got to give them some big props because I'm about ready to hit the road too. In fact, my first date back is a flyout date with ZZ Top of all bands. Can you believe that? I'm way excited. But check this out. These guys hooked me up with things called the Superblock US and the Superblock UK. These things are the size of my hand, and they're amplifiers, and they sound amazing. So no matter where I go, I'm going to have my sound with me. I'm going to have incredible tone because these guys know tone. So go check out Quilter at your favorite guitar stores, or go to quilterlabs.com to check them out for yourself. I gotta give them just the biggest props. They're amazing. Quilter Labs, you guys are the best. www.quilterlabs.com. Go check them out now and tell them Ken Valdez sent you. If you were to describe your sound to somebody, how would you do it? What is the Jeff Scott Soto sound?
It's kind of the reason I named my new solo album what I did, because that answer is it's complicated.
Yes.
That's the answer to a journalist gave me at the end of an interview. When I was doing the interview cycle for the duets album. We were ending the interview with one more question. If I went to somebody who has no idea who Jeff Scott Soto is, doesn't know your name, doesn't know your sound, doesn't know your music, what would be the best way to describe you as an artist? And I said, it just came out. I said, dude, it's complicated. I don't have a direct answer for that because there are too many derivatives involved that make me what I am today. Without any one of those little pieces,
right,
I wouldn't be what I am. So am I an R&B singer? No. Am I a soul singer? No. Am I a metal singer? Am I a rock singer? No. Am I a classic rock singer, melodic rock singer, AOR? No. Are you all of the above? Kind of, yeah. And that's what I prided myself on. Being such a massive fan and student of Freddie Mercury and Queen was also a massive thing for me because I saw what they were going after. I saw that they wanted to be the jack of all trades and master of them. And it's very rare. It's almost impossible to be able to tap into so many different things musically and get away with it and be believable. And that band pulled it off. To this day,
yes, they did.
You listen to anything from the first album until Innuendo or even Made in Heaven, which wasn't an official album because Freddie was already gone. But if you listen to anything in between those records, band that's impossible to pinpoint as to what they're about. They weren't a rock band. They weren't an opera band. They were all of the above. And I strived, I pushed and worked my ass off to be one of those all of the above artists. And I'll never get there. I'll never be as good I'll never compare myself to Freddie or Queen or the people that inspired and influenced me. But I can say I took what they gave me and made it what I was able to turn it into today. And that's my contribution to music, is what they gave to me to kind of leave my own chapter behind.
That's awesome. And, talking about complicated, when I listen to it, and I've gone through it several times at this point, I can't help but think that complicated, it sounds almost like a retrospective of your career. Was that intentional?
The last two were very intentional in that for my solo stuff, I try to include a little bit of everything that's kind of occurred through my life and in my career and the things that I've been able to do and released, etc. with the people I've done it with. I mean, there's always an element in my solo stuff of everything. It's like a culmination, so to speak, of everything that I've done, even to the point where that's what forced me to start the band Soto, because to be honest with you, the first Soto record was supposed to be the next Jeff Scott Soto record, but First of all, the label didn't like it because it was too heavy. They'd spent a lot of years pushing me and marketing me as more of a melodic rock singer, where clearly I don't like being defined by any sound, any genre. I just like doing music. I like doing things that feel good. But unfortunately, they didn't like the heaviness of it, and I had to take it elsewhere. And the manager I was working with at the time told me, Jeff, I got a problem with this. This doesn't sound like a JSS album. It doesn't sound like a solo record. This sounds like a band album. So my 2 cents is, I'm going to get the deal for you. I'm going to get this happening, but you need to have a band. And at that point, I'm like, I don't want another band. I've got so many bands and projects under my belt. It's easier to just to be Jeff Scott Soto and sell it as that, because that's, this is something that means a lot to me as a solo record. But I understood his point. It's the sound was too band sounding. It sounded like it was something that we did as a team effort in terms of guitar solos and riffs and things that a little more involved than just the singer. So that's what talked me into it, and that's why I started Soto. It was kind of like an offshoot of what I wanted to do, but it was also the chance to do something that the label didn't want me to do. It was a chance for me to say, yes, I'm going to do this, even though they said no, I can't. So
Right.
yeah, it's I don't know. My initial point is, I couldn't stand being labeled and stereotyped as a particular artist. When I left Yngwie, I was getting all these offers to be the guitar player singer. I did a few things. This guitar player named Kuni in Japan, and Alex Masi and Axel Rudipel, but I didn't want to be somebody's puppet, somebody else's shadow. I wanted to be what Eddie Van Halen had in Dave Roth. The band was called Van Halen, and it was Eddie Van Halen, but it wasn't a solo project. It was a badass guitar player with great riffs that was centered around the guitar player and the singer, and I wanted that. I didn't want to just be a shadow of somebody else, and that's why my whole focus and everything I was doing and everything I've done was to make sure that I was equal to whoever I was working with and how I was working. So my solo albums are exactly that. They're a culmination of things that I've done. And when we did the first one I did with Alessandro was Wide Awake in My Dreamland. I remember he remembered telling me, he said, because I said, you're writing the songs for this album. I love the way you write. I love what you're doing with everybody else. So he was happy that I was giving him the leash to write all the songs, even though I was going to write the lyrics and melodies myself. Mm-hmm. But he said, okay, what I'm going to go about this way. I want to write songs that are based around what I love about your career. I want to write songs that sound like they're extensions of the things that I've already heard you sing that I love through the years of your body of work. And then he modernized it from there. He made it sound fresh and new and not just a plagiaristic version of something I already released. I love the way he did that. But for Complicated, he said, now we're gonna refine. We're gonna hone in on a sound or one of your genres, one of your things that you've done that you don't do anymore, and that's Talisman. Talisman has been inactive for enough years, but that's the one side of the musical kind of chain that I'm missing. And that dude knows how to write a Talisman song. I'll tell you right now, because the first couple songs he sent me, I was like, oh my God, this could have been a Talisman song. There's even one song on there that sounds like it reminded me of a song that we had called Coming Home. And intentionally, I wrote the lyrics called Home Again, because it's like, I'm coming home again. It was kind of the sequel to Coming Home.
That's the one. And that was the one that I was thinking is like, man, this is a total Talisman song.
Absolutely. So there are a lot of songs on the album that were more directive to the Talisman sound and vibe, because I've kind of tapped into that a little bit with the band Wet. The influence from Wet, it comes from Sweden more so than it comes from the fact that those guys loved our records growing up. But that's the influence of how they even write their stuff has a very Talisman kind of influence. So they know how to write that kind of stuff too. But for some reason, he's just got it down. I think even if Marcel were still alive today, he would hear that and go, man, I got to give that guy $20 for writing something that sounds like something I would have written.
You've had just an incredible career. What has been the biggest highlight for you? That one highlight that just stands out so far above all else?
It's a stacked question, because there are some things that are emotionally involved in that reply, and there's some things that are musically involved, some both. Emotionally has to be singing for Journey at the Hollywood Bowl.
Wow.
I remember
Yeah.
being in high school, and do you remember? I don't know if you're old enough to remember the peachy folders, the yellow folders with they had like sports figures and somebody playing tennis. It was like somebody.
I do
A peachy
remember
folder.
those.
Okay.
Yeah.
We always used to draw on our peachy folders. We'd write, dabble on them, whatever. I always used to write. I used to draw my favorite band's logos on them. I drew the Van Halen logo on one. I drew the Styx logo on another. The Queen logo. That was my thing. Was drawing logos from the bands that I loved. And
Yes.
on the inside of the my peachy folder, just if you take out all the papers and then all the contents on the inside of the actual folder itself, I remember writing a timetable of what I wanted, what I expected out of myself as a singer, what I wanted out of life. At 16 years old, I already said, by the time I'm 18, I want to be in a signed band touring. By the time I'm 21, I need to have a gold album. By the time I'm 30, I need to have already earned my first million and gotten away from this whole welfare and food stamps lifestyle that I unfortunately had to live, early on in life. I had my goals already set out for me. I had a goal to play Madison Square Garden, and I had a goal to to headline at the Hollywood Bowl. I didn't have a year of when this had to happen by, but those were part of my goals. These are my aspirations. I have to do this within my lifetime, my career. The only one out of everything I wrote that day or on that folder, whatever, that year, the only one I haven't done is played Madison Square Garden.
Unbelievable.
Actually,
Wow.
my mother, 15 rows back, my high school friends in 2006 singing Journey songs. Our favorite band, our alma mater in high school was Journey. For my people to be there, my family to be there, I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it. To be able to play the Hollywood Bowl, it to me was probably, I could have died at that moment and been completed. My life was complete.
Oh,
Now,
man.
that's on an emotional side. That's what that gig meant to me.
Right.
On the musical and emotional side, as many things as I've had through my career in my lifetime. On the career side, I would have to say playing the Wacken Festival with Trans-Siberian Orchestra in 2014, I believe it was, 2014 or 015. We played at the Wacken Festival. We are the only act in history that has played both stages simultaneously. And there's a reason why you have two main stages, a big festival like that. While one is playing, the other one's setting up. So as soon as the one is done, everybody shifts over and you still have a main stage in front of you. You don't really have to move that much to see your favorite band. They're both are right there in front of you. But no one has ever accessed both stages. One of the reasons is there's not enough power in that city to power up two stages. TSO they spent a ton of money to bring in their own power to power the second stage so we can actually have two running simultaneously. But to the site, there were a couple clips that were professionally edited and released on YouTube of that night. If you look up TSO Wacken Festival, you see it's just so insane on how it looks. Two stages simultaneously, the lights, everything's in sync, all the pyro's in sync. Two full bands, 16-piece bands on both stages, 32 people in sync. It is awesome. It is so awesome. I'll never forget talking to Paul O'Neill about this. Paul O'Neill, the founder of TSO, he said, Jeff, when the Beatles played on the top of the roof, their last concert they ever played and filmed, they made history. When U2 did it for their video, The Streets Have No Name, I forgot which video they did where they're on the roof doing that. People will always say the Beatles did it first. If anybody ever has the balls to do this again, people are going to say TSO did it first.
That's
I
awesome.
love, especially at this age, to be a part of a first of any capacity. At this age, I'm almost 60, and to be a part of something that was a first is very rare anymore. So that is on a career side, that is like one of the most awesome things that I've ever experienced in my life. Now, if you put career and emotional in the same picture, I have to say the night that we recorded the live DVD with Sons of Apollo in Bulgaria, because that setting with something I wrote that I created with the guys that I'm on stage singing with. It wasn't TSO's music. It wasn't Journey's music. It was something I was a part of the inception, the very early stages of, with an orchestra behind me, with a choir behind me, in an amphitheater that was built before Christ was born. I'm the hairs, the little hairs I have on my arm are standing up, and goosebumps, because emotionally it got to me, because this is like my music. This is my music with these guys, with my guys. There's 5 guys that created this sound, and these people are here to hear this sound that I'm a part of. It's not somebody else's music I'm singing. So on the emotional side, that's what get me. But on the career side, to be able to play in that setting with those people and the orchestra and the symphony and everything, that it really is beyond words.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting the goosebumps, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool, man. I love hearing stuff like that, especially from people that have done so much, man. I mean, and you've shared the stage with your heroes, dude.
Yeah.
And your heroes, I mean, they're seriously like the Mount Rushmore of rock and roll.
Absolutely.
When I look at it. How did that feel?
To me,
how does that feel to go from like 18-year-old, stealing from 7-Eleven,
right,
to like,
and that's
hanging
what
with
kills
your
me
heroes?
the most. I mean, I'm still a fan. It's very difficult, even at this age and at this stage. It's difficult to put the fanboy down when I'm hanging out with, say, Brian May, or when I started, when we started Soul Circus with Neil Sean. Of course, you got to play it cool. You can't be a fanboy. You're going to turn these people off, and they're going to not write back to you, or they're going to see you as, okay, this guy doesn't know how to keep his cool. I don't want to work with people like this. So you got to learn how to contain it and control it. But deep down, I still remember that kid with the bedroom, all the clippings from Circus Magazine and Cream Magazine and the Hit Parader of my favorite rock stars up on my wall. And now they're in my phone book. Now they're in my contacts list. It's crazy.
Right.
It's just crazy. And so, yeah, you have those pinch me moments, and you realize, hey, I'm one of them now. We're colleagues now. We're peers. I'm not a fan anymore, just a fan anymore. But deep down, I'll forever be a fan, and I don't ever want to lose that. I forever want to feel that sense of, it's because of you guys I'm here, and now I get to leave my mark, and hopefully somebody else will say it's because of you I'm here. It's that paying it forward thing.
God, I love that. I'll tell you this too. I mean, rock and roll comes with its drama, and I'm not going to be rehashing anything like that.
Sure.
But one of the things that I find really just awesome about you, man, is the fact that I've caught a few interviews and things that you've said where, you talk about just wanting things to be cool, if there's any beef you had with anybody, you don't want to go out with drama,
right?
Or things that are, with loose ends. You have that mentality. God, man, what a breath of fresh air! It really is. So
Ken, man, it really stems. A lot of that stems from the rock and roll, the rock star, the whole personification of a rock star. As much as it was a huge thing for us, I want to be that. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. There was also an element of it that turned me off. There was I didn't want to be smug. I didn't want to be an asshole to people. I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to be conceited, egotistical. I'm better than you. Get away from me. Who are you? I didn't want to be that guy. There's too much of that already. And
yes.
Again, for however people are and however they choose to live their lives and treat others, I had to make sure that my true nature would always remain, and that was to be respectful to people, to treat others as I expect them to treat me, not as they have treated me, because if I'd done that, I would have been the biggest asshole on the planet. But that's what made every time I was treated badly, poorly, or disrespected, any of that stuff, it made me really truly enforce that I was on the right path of who I wanted to be, how I wanted to be represented, how I want to represent myself, how I want to represent my mother and how she raised me. Do I want people to say, what a rude, arrogant asshole? his mother raised him wrong, or that's the product of somebody of bad parenting. Of course not.
Right.
I want people to be proud of the way my mother raised me. I want to be proud of the way my mother raised me, and I wanted to show that respect to everybody, the courtesy, the niceness, the not being personified as an ass. And that to me was as important as the career path and everything that came with it. To this day, I just wanted to stay as grounded as I could, and I just wanted to make it about the music. We can make it about me when it comes to what I like, and it's like my hobbies and things I laugh at and the kind of music I listen to. You can make that all about me all you want, but as far as how you see me, that was more important to me, that it came across the way my mother could actually say, I raised that kid right.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. I love that. That makes me feel so good, dude. And a side note on that, dude, is just the fact that when it comes down to the crowd itself, I mean, these are people that listen to you. These are the people that give us a career.
Yeah.
So
I love playing rock star, man. I love getting on stage, shaking my ass, moving my hips, singing, showing off, being funny, being a clown, all that stuff. I love it. To me, that's being a rock star. When I'm off stage, I'm just a dude, man. I breathe, I eat, I shit, I do everything that everybody else does. There's nobody out there shitting gold and pissing champagne. I want to be perceived the same way as you're perceived. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. We're one people. You might have a great talent, somebody who can build a rocket and send people to the moon. That's a great talent, but it doesn't make you better than me, as much as me being able to sing Bohemian Rhapsody doesn't make me better than you. It's the same thing in terms of we are people. We're all here for a reason. We all have our place of what we do, and let's just all share these talents and share this love and share this laughter together, as opposed to mocking and putting each other down. It's so unnecessary.
I agree with you, man. And again, just thank you for being that breath of fresh air. That's just I wish that more people could have that outlook, and hopefully they will.
I thank my mother. They all came. I was raised by a single parent. I'm very close with my father still, but they were divorced when I was 2, and my mother basically kept me on the straight and narrow. She was my mother and my father, and I give that woman all the credit in the world for the person that I became.
Hey, well, thank you, Mom. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, now that we're getting down to the end of this thing, man, usually what I do is I ask you questions, okay? And this is just rapid fire, dude. So it's just off the top of your head. All right?
I love it.
All right, so here we go.
I know one of them's gonna make me go, oh man.
I'm going there, baby. I'm going there because it's happened to everybody.
Everyone.
And I love it. I relish in that last question.
Yeah.
But anyhow, here it is, man. We'll get started here. Top 3 singers for you.
Freddie Mercury, Steve Perry, Sam Cooke.
I'll take that all day long. Probably.
And I can't even tell you what order. Because there is no order. They're top 1. There's 3 guys that basically they're all tied for first place.
Right. Oh my God, man! And just the fact that you got to play both of them. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got to be that guy. And brother, that's so cool. I can't even tell you. All right, your top 3 desert island records.
Jellyfish, Spilt Milk.
Wow, that came out of nowhere. Good call.
Van Halen, Fair Warning. And The Hard Line, according to Terence Trent D'Arby.
Dude, okay, you and me, like, you're my soul brother, man. I feel this. I dig this. Did you ever check out Vibrator by Terence Trent D'Arby?
I have to go with number 1 because that's the one that got. I love Symphony or Damn. I can never remember the name that he changed his name to, but I love that stuff. The Wild Card album. I love Terence. Terence is a god to me, but it's weird because I don't play his name enough when I'm talking and doing interviews. It's always Freddie and Perry and Sam Cooke, but Terence is one of those extremely important singers in my life.
God, what a badass. Oh my God, that voice. Yeah, dude, yeah, you and I, you're like you're fucking kindred spirit, soul brother.
Yeah.
I feel you, man. Yes. All right. I like that list. I like that list a lot. All right. If you could tour with anybody, this is a two-parter now. If you could tour with anybody alive, who would it be? And same thing, if there was somebody you could tour with that is not with us, who would it be?
I used to have these wish list kind of fantasy bands that I put together, and ever since I started singing for Sons of Apollo, that wish list fantasy band thing just went away. Because as far as I'm concerned, my fantasy dream wish list band would be Bumblefoot, Mike Portnoy, Billy Sheehan, and Derek Sherinian.
Yeah, dude. Wow, cool.
Now,
and what about?
If it was somebody not with us anymore, whatever the configuration of the band that would be, Prince would be my guitar player.
Nice.
I can't say he'd be my singer because I gotta do something.
You got to do something. Oh my God. And it's funny, man. Just being here in Minneapolis, whenever he'd do anything sitting in, he would play guitar. He'd let somebody else sing. And that was so cool. It was so cool.
That guy's, and I don't want to say he's underrated. There are enough people that realized and discovered later in his career and in his life that realized what a badass he was with a guitar.
Oh, God.
And one of my favorite things, I still listen to, I still get goosebumps and still just like I'm just in awe to this day when I hear is when at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where he jammed with Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne. They did Still My Guitar Gently Weeps, and the solos he did on that. I was like, oh my God, just unbelievable.
And to him, it was probably just like, this ain't no thing.
Exactly.
God,
but just what a showman, everything. Just he made you. The guitar was part of his body, his leg work, his antics, his facial movements. Everything about that guy was so inspiring, and it just made me want to just up my game every time I watch him. And today being the end, this is his birthday. He would have been 64 years old today. It's every year, whether it's the day we lost him or on his birthday, I pay tribute to him, and I will forever pay tribute to him because that's my guy. Prince was my guy. I met him once. I didn't meet him the way I would love to have met him. As far as I'm concerned, when you meet your heroes, you want to be introduced by somebody who can introduce you with the way you feel you need to be introduced. In other words, hey, Prince, I'm a singer too. That's not how I wanted to meet him.
Right.
The way I met Roger Daltrey, I'm sorry, I'm dropping names.
Go ahead, man.
The way I met Roger Daltrey, it was amazing because it was one of those all-star, it was a corporate gig, but it was an all-star cast, and Roger was one of the singers, and Roger Taylor was also one of the singers and drummers. And I've known Roger Taylor for many years now, and we were just backstage, and the Rogers were speaking to each other. I was going to say goodbye to them because we were saying, bidding each other adieu. And Roger Taylor says, Roger, do you know Jeff Scott Soto? And he goes, no, I don't. And he goes, Jeff is one of the best singers out there. It's like, I could die right now. Roger Taylor just introduced me to Roger Daltrey, is one of the best singers out there today.
Nice.
That's it. I quit. I would have loved to have met Prince under the same circumstances and pretense because, when you meet your heroes, you want them to know that not only that you only exist because of them.
Right.
You exist in a lot of what you're doing is because of them, but you also want to be able to prove it. I'd want to be introduced that way to somebody like Prince so he can maybe go home later that night and look and go, yeah, now I get why that person said that in introducing us. That's the sense of all my work to be validated, to be able for somebody like that to say, now I get it. And
right.
that would have been cool. I met Perry twice in my life, and both times were way before Soul Circus: A Journey. But the first time I met him, it was backstage after watching Extreme. He was in the bus talking to Nuno and the guys, and I came on to say hello, and I got to meet him. And I remember before I left, I said, listen, I've got a band that I just released, the album we released called Eyes, and there's a ghost track on there. It's an a cappella ghost track that was absolutely inspired by you and Sam Cooke. And of course, his ears perked. You talk about Sam Cooke, that's Perry's hero.
Right.
And I said, it's an a cappella. I would love to send you a copy of the CD or the copy of the album. Can you give me an address I can send it to? He wrote down an address. Of course, it wasn't his.
Right.
No, that's awesome. I'm going to send them a copy of the CD. I got home. I looked everywhere. Could not find this thing anywhere.
Oh,
I was
no.
like, you got to be kidding me. So a few weeks passed by. We're doing some show at the Shark Club that's not there anymore in downtown LA. It was a Randy Rhoads memorial gig, or one of these anniversaries to his passing
Sure.
gigs. And I was singing that night. It was all-star cast of people doing things for Randy. Perry was in the audience. I'm like, whoa. I went to Perry. I'm like, Steve, we met at the Extreme show. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you. The address you gave me, I wanted to send you a copy of the CD so you can hear that song. And I lost the address. I'm so sorry. Can I trouble you to write it down again? Because I'd love to send you the CD. He says, you don't need to. I went out and bought it. I was like,
Wow. Oh,
and like,
man.
no. The first thing, I'm okay. He's just he's just blowing smoke.
Bullshit.
He says, yeah, it's just saying something nice to make me feel good. But then he starts. Not only did he talk about the a cappella thing that I did that he loved, and he saw that I credited him on the album. It said special thanks, inspiration, vocal influence to Sam Cooke and Steve Perry. He mentioned that. I never told him that I wrote that on there. But then he starts telling me, oh, I like that song. I believe it was Walk in Fire. He actually said a couple of the titles. You can't make that up if you don't actually have a copy of the album, that you actually said the titles of some of the songs on the CD.
Right.
That's how I knew it was real. I'm like, this is validation that you can't buy this. So those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. When you meet your heroes, you want to be able to look at you as their contemporaries, as opposed to just, if I had a nickel for every time I've met somebody, oh yeah, I used to be in a band, or I used to be a singer, or, I never wanted to be seen as one of those guys to my contemporaries. I wanted to be able to be validated or respected for what they gave me, and I got that totally from Perry.
Yeah, and you're still a fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the things that I want to do with this show is just, I don't want to do the run-of-the-mill kind of stuff, man.
Right.
I like showing people that, that you're a fan. You're still a fan.
This is why I wanted to do this with you. I mean, I've already passed the album, the interview cycle for Complicated, for the new solo album.
Right.
That was a few weeks ago, that whole window is closed. But when you asked me to do this, I didn't say, well, let's wait for the next album and we can, when I have something to plug. I'm not plugging anything right now. This is you and I just having conversation, and we're mainly talking about the past. We're talking about way back in the day, and some things in between, but it's really taking it back. And that to me is more exciting to talk about than to talk about, well, what's this song about? And who's playing on that song? Of course, that's great if you're pushing an album, but this is just a conversation between two guys who love music, two guys who are fans of music, and we have that mutual respect for what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the last question for you.
Hit me.
If there's one song,
our 4-hour interview here.
I love it. Right. Yeah, dude. If there's one song, okay. If there's one song that you wish you wrote, what would it be?
Yeah, that's the one that's going to take time.
I told you. Bam!
And again, it's only because of content.
Right.
It could be a badass rock song. Oh man, Light Up the Sky.
Right.
From Van Halen. I wish I wrote that. No, but there's an emotional side. I wish I wrote Sometimes It Snows in April from Prince.
Yeah.
Most people won't even know that song, but it's one of those deep cut songs that really gets me every time I hear it. But, oh boy. So it really depends on the moment and the mood that we're looking for. I wish I wrote that song. But I'm giving kudos to everybody else. And the one band I'm missing out on giving kudos to is Queen, like the ultimate kudos. The song Innuendo. I wish I wrote that. Wow. I wish I could have written that with those guys. That's one of those songs, like, it's so damn cool. It's so, just everything about it is just, it's all there. Everything is there.
I agree with you. Man, what an awesome ending to that. Dude.
Right on.
Dude, what are you doing next? What's your deal?
Mainly it's catching up with all the shows and all the events that were canceled or postponed during COVID. Obviously, one of those just passed, the Prague Power Festival that I just came home from.
Right.
I've got some other makeup shows coming up. We've got the Sons of Apollo South America tour coming up in August that we're making up. Let's see. I've got the Monsters on the Mountain in August, which is a shoot of the Monsters of Rock cruise, which I also did this year after a 2-year hiatus. So yeah, it's mostly just making up stuff.
Where can people find you?
I'm not as accessible. My website still exists, jeffscottsoto.com, still there, but it's not really very active. The only 3 that I'm on is Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if it doesn't have a blue badge next to it, it ain't me. So if you're looking up anything Jeff Scott Soto on those 3 formats, make sure there's a blue badge next to it.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this interview. This has been a long time coming, man. Thank you so much.
Well, dude, I apologize for the years that you've been reaching out to me and saying, from the first day we met, it's like, man, musically, you and I, we're on the same page and we got to do something together. And I say, yeah. And then I get so busy. And every time you reach out, I'm like, damn, sorry, Ken, I can't. I'm telling you now on a podcast where people can hear it, my voice saying it. It's not just me saying it to you. We are going to do something together in the near future.
Yeah! This is my soul brother, man. I'm telling you. It's like, it's frightening how, I dig you, Jeff. I dig you, man. Thank you so much, my bro.
You got it.
Well, there you have it. My conversation with Jeff Scott Soto. I swear that guy he's like my brother. He's a soul brother. It's like we were separated at birth or something. It's crazy. Unbelievable, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, dude. And all of you, if you see Jeff is coming to town in one of his many bands, Sons of Apollo, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, man, just all the projects that he's in, just go check him out. You will not be disappointed. What an incredible singer, and obviously such a really cool guy. I'm also asking you guys to go visit my website, www.kenvaldez.com. Over there, you can find out more about my music, as well as more about this show. And, hey, speaking of shows, I got some coming up. I got my concert dates on there as well. Also, you can find my social media links. And, hey, I love hearing from you guys, so hit me up. I'll get back to you for sure. And last but certainly not least, if you enjoy this show, if you like what you're hearing and you want to show a little support, go visit me at Venmo. My handle is @KenValdez. Believe me when I tell you, as far as this show is concerned, and with any support you give, a little love goes a long, long way. Well, there you have it, my friends. Until the next time, be good to each other. Take care of one another. Bye-bye.